Guinea, officially the Republic of Guinea, is a west coastal country in West Africa. Formerly known as French Guinea, the modern country is sometimes referred to as Guinea-Conakry to distinguish it from other countries with Guinea in the name and the eponymous region, such as Guinea-Bissau and Equatorial Guinea. Guinea has a population of million and an area of. The sovereign state of Guinea is a republic with a president who is directly elected by the people. This position is both head of state and head of government. The unicameral Guinean National Assembly is the legislative body of the country, and its members are also directly elected by the people. The judicial branch is led by the Guinea Supreme Court, the highest and final court of appeal in the country. Guinea is a predominantly Islamic country, with Muslims representing 85% of the population. Guinea's people belong to 24 ethnic groups. French, the official language of Guinea, is the main language of communication in schools, in government administration, and the media, but more than 24 indigenous languages are also spoken. Guinea's economy is largely dependent on agriculture and mineral production. It is the world's second largest producer of bauxite, and has rich deposits of diamonds and gold. The country was at the core of the 2014 Ebola outbreak. Human rights in Guinea remain a controversial issue. In 2011, the United States government claimed that torture by security forces, and abuse of women and children e.g., female genital mutilation were ongoing abuses of human rights.
Name.
Guinea is named after the Guinea region. Guinea is a traditional name for the region of Africa that lies along the Gulf of Guinea. It stretches north through the forested tropical regions and ends at the Sahel. The English term Guinea comes directly from the Portuguese word Guinean, which emerged in the mid-15th century to refer to the lands inhabited by the Guineas, a generic term for the black African peoples south of the Senegal River, in contrast to the tawny Senegal Berbers above it, whom they called as Nags or Moors.
History.
The land that is now Guinea belonged to a series of African empires until France colonized it in the 1890s, and made it part of French West Africa. Guinea declared its independence from France on the 2nd of October 1958. From independence until the presidential election of 2010, Guinea was governed by a number of autocratic rulers. For the origin of the name Guinea, see
West African empires and kingdoms in Guinea.
What is now Guinea was on the fringes of the major West African empires. The earliest, the Ghana Empire, grew on trade but ultimately fell after repeated incursions of the Almoravids. It was in this period that Islam first arrived in the region by way of North African traders. The Soso Kingdom 12th to 13th centuries briefly flourished in the resulting void, but the Mali Empire came to prominence when Soundiata Keita defeated the Soso ruler Sumangru Kanti at the Battle of Kyrena in circa 1235. The Mali Empire was ruled by Manzu emperors, the most famous being Kanku Musa, who made a famous Hajj to Mecca in 1324. Shortly after his reign, the Mali Empire began to decline and was ultimately supplanted by its vassal states in the 15th century. The most successful of these was the Songhai Empire, which expanded its power from about 1460 and eventually surpassed the Mali Empire in both territory and wealth. It continued to prosper until a civil war over succession followed the death of Askia Oud in 1582. The weakened empire fell to invaders from Morocco at the Battle of Tondibi just 3 years later. The Moroccans proved unable to rule the kingdom effectively, however, and it split into many small kingdoms. After the fall of the major West African empires, various kingdoms existed in what is now Guinea. Fulani Muslims migrated to Futu Jalan in central Guinea and established an Islamic state from 1727 to 1896 with a written constitution and alternate rulers. The Wassoulou or Wassielu Empire was a short-lived 1878 to 1898 empire, led by Samori Touré in the predominantly Malink area of what is now Upper Guinea and southwestern Mali Wassoulou. It moved to Ivory Coast before being conquered by the French.
Colonial era.
The slave trade came to the coastal region of Guinea with European traders in the 16th century. Slaves were exported to work elsewhere in the triangular trade. Guinea's colonial period began with French military penetration into the area in the mid-19th century. French domination was assured by the defeat in 1898 of the armies of Seymour Tour, Manza or Emperor of the Wassoulou state and leader of Milinque descent, which gave France control of what today is Guinea and adjacent areas. France negotiated Guinea's present boundaries in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with the British for Sierra Leone, the Portuguese for their Guinea colony now Guinea-Bissau, and Liberia. Under the French, the country formed the territory of Guinea within French West Africa, administered by a governor-general resident in Dakar. Lieutenant governors administered the individual colonies, including Guinea.
Independence in post-colonial rule 1958 to 2008.
In 1958, the French Fourth Republic collapsed due to political instability and its failures in dealing with its colonies, especially Indochina and Algeria. The founding of a Fifth Republic was supported by the French people, while French President Charles de Gaulle made it clear on the 8th of August 1958 that France's colonies were to be given a stark choice between more autonomy in a new French community or immediate independence in the referendum to be held on the 28th of September 1958. The other colonies chose the former, but Guinea, under the leadership of Ahmed Sékou Touré, whose Democratic Party of Guinea African Democratic Rally (PDG) had won 56 of 60 seats in 1957 territorial elections, voted overwhelmingly for independence. The French withdrew quickly, and on the 2nd of October 1958, Guinea proclaimed itself a sovereign and independent republic, with Sékou Touré as president. In response to the vote for independence, the French settlers in Guinea were quite dramatic in severing ties with Guinea. The Washington Post observes how brutal the French were in tearing down all what they thought was their contributions to Guinea. In reaction, and as a warning to other French-speaking territories, the French pulled out of Guinea over a 2-month period, taking everything they could with them. They unscrewed light bulbs, removed plans for sewage pipelines in Conakry, the capital, and even burned medicines rather than leave them for the Guineans. Guinea subsequently quickly aligned itself with the Soviet Union and adopted socialist policies. This alliance was short-lived, however, as Guinea moved towards a Chinese model of socialism. Despite this, however, the country continued to receive investment from capitalist countries such as the United States. By 1960, Touré had declared the PDG the country's only legal political party, and for the next 24 years, the government and the PDG were one. Touré was re-elected unopposed to 4 7-year terms as president, and every 5 years voters were presented with a single list of PDG candidates for the National Assembly, advocating a hybrid African socialism domestically and Pan-Africanism abroad. Touré quickly became a polarizing leader, and his government became intolerant of dissent, imprisoning thousands and stifling the press. Throughout the 1960s, the Guinean government nationalized land, removed French-appointed and traditional chiefs from power, and had strained ties with the French government and French companies. Touré's government relied on the Soviet Union and China for infrastructure aid and development, but much of this was used for political and not economic purposes, such as the building of large stadiums to hold political rallies. Meanwhile, the country's roads, railways and other infrastructure languished and the economy stagnated. On the 22nd of November 1970, Portuguese forces from neighboring Portuguese Guinea staged Operation Green Sea, a raid on Conakry by several hundred exiled Guinean opposition forces. Among their goals, the Portuguese military wanted to kill or capture Sékou Touré due his support of the PAIG, an independence movement and rebel group that carried out attacks inside Portuguese Guinea from their bases in Guinea. After fierce fighting, the Portuguese-backed forces retreated, having freed several dozen Portuguese prisoners of war that were being held by the PAIG in Conakry, but without having ousted Touré. In the years after the raid, massive purges were carried out by the Touré government and at least 50,000 people, 1% of Guinea's entire population, were killed. Countless others were imprisoned, faced torture, or, often in the case of foreigners, were forced to leave the country sometimes after having had their Guinean spouse arrested and their children placed into state custody. A declining economy, mass killings, a stifling political atmosphere, and a ban on all private economic transactions led in 1977 to the Market Women's Revolt, anti-government riots that were started by women working in Conakry's Medina market. This caused her to make major reforms. Tour vacillated from supporting the Soviet Union to supporting the United States. The late 1970s and early 1980s saw some economic reforms, but Tour's centralized control of the state remained. Even the relationship with France improved. After the election of Valéry Giscard d'Estaing as French president, trade increased and the two countries exchanged diplomatic visits. Sékou Touré died on the 26th of March 1984 after a heart operation in the United States, and was replaced by Prime Minister Louis Lansana-Bivogui, who was to serve as interim president pending new elections. The PDG was due to elect a new leader on the 3rd of April 1984. Under the constitution, that person would have been the only candidate for president. However, hours before that meeting, Colonels Lansana Conté and Diarra Traoré seized power in a bloodless coup. Conté assumed the role of president, with Traoré serving as prime minister until December. Conté immediately denounced the previous regime's record on human rights, released 250 political prisoners and encouraged approximately 200,000 more to return from exile. He also made explicit the turn away from socialism. This did little to alleviate poverty and the country showed no immediate signs of moving towards democracy. In 1992, Conté announced a return to civilian rule, with a presidential poll in 1993 followed by elections to parliament in 1995 in which his party, the Party of Unity and Progress, won 71 of 114 seats. Despite his stated commitment to democracy, Conté's grip on power remained tight. In September 2001, the opposition leader Alpha Condé was imprisoned for endangering state security, though he was pardoned 8 months later. He subsequently spent a period of exile in France. In 2001, Conté organized and won a referendum to lengthen the presidential term, and in 2003 began his third term after elections were boycotted by the opposition. In January 2005, Conté survived a suspected assassination attempt while making a rare public appearance in the capital Conakry. His opponents claimed that he was a tired dictator whose departure was inevitable, whereas his supporters believed that he was winning a battle with dissidents. Guinea still faces very real problems and, according to foreign policy, is in danger of becoming a failed state. In 2000, Guinea became embroiled in the instability which had long blighted the rest of West Africa as rebels crossed the borders with Liberia and Sierra Leone, and it seemed for a time that the country was headed for civil war. Conté blamed neighboring leaders for coveting Guinea's natural resources, though these claims were strenuously denied. In 2003, Guinea agreed to plans with her neighbors to tackle the insurgents. In 2007, there were large protests against the government, resulting in the appointment of a new prime minister.
Recent history.
Conté remained in power until his death on the 23rd of December 2008, and several hours following his death, Moussa Dadis Camara seized control in a coup, declaring himself head of a military junta. Protests against the coup became violent and 157 people were killed when, on the 28th of September 2009, the junta ordered its soldiers to attack people who had gathered to protest against Camara's attempt to become president. The soldiers went on a rampage of rape, mutilation, and murder which caused many foreign governments to withdraw their support for the new regime. On the 3rd of December 2009, an aide shot Camara during a dispute over the rampage in September. Camara went to Morocco for medical care. Vice President and Defense Minister Sékou Touré flew back from Lebanon to run the country in Camara's absence. After meeting in Ouagadougou on 13 and 14 January 2010, Camara, Touré, and Blaise Compaoré, President of Burkina Faso, produced a formal statement of 12 principles promising a return of Guinea to civilian rule within 6 months. The presidential election was held on the 27th of June, with a second election held on the 7th of November due to allegations of electoral fraud. Voter turnout was high, and the elections went relatively smoothly. Alpha Conde, leader of the opposition party IOL News Go. ZA the 16th of November 2010. Retrieved the 28th of June 2011. In late February 2013, political violence erupted in Guinea after protesters took to the streets to voice their concerns over the transparency of the upcoming May 2013 elections. The demonstrations were fueled by the opposition coalition's decision to step down from the electoral process in protest at the lack of transparency in the preparations for elections. 9 people were killed during the protests, and around 220 were injured. Many of the deaths and injuries were caused by security forces using live ammunition on protesters. The political violence also led to interethnic clashes between the Fula and Malink, the base of support for President Conde. The former mainly supported the opposition. On the 26th of March 2013, the opposition party backed out of the negotiations with the government over the upcoming 12th of May election. The opposition said that the government had not respected them, and had not kept any promises they agreed to. On the 25th of March 2014, the World Health Organization said that Guinea's Ministry of Health had reported an outbreak of Ebola virus disease in Guinea. This initial outbreak had a total of 86 cases, including 59 deaths. By the 28th of May, there were 281 cases, with 186 deaths. It is believed that the first case was Emile Wamauno, a 2-year-old boy who lived in the village of Maliandu. He fell ill on the 2nd of December 2013 and died on the 6th of December. On the 18th of September 2014, 8 members of an Ebola education healthcare team were murdered by villagers in the town of Wome. As of the 1st of November 2015, there have been 3,810 cases and 2,536 deaths in Guinea.
Government and politics.
The country is a republic. The president is directly elected by the people and is head of state and head of government. The unicameral National Assembly is the legislative body of the country, and its members are directly elected by the people. The judicial branch is led by the Guinea Supreme Court, the highest and final court of appeal in the country. Guinea's opposition is backed by the Fula ethnic group, who account for around 32% of the population. The 2013 Guinean legislative election were held on the 24th of September 2013. President Alpha Conde's party, the Rally of the Guinean People Rebounds per Game, won a plurality of seats in the National Assembly of Guinea, with 53 out of 114 seats. The opposition parties won a total of 53 seats, and opposition leaders denounced the official results as fraudulent.
Foreign relations.
Guinea's foreign relations, including those with its West African neighbors, have improved steadily since 1985.
Military.
Guinea's armed forces are divided into 5 branches: Army, Navy, Air Force, the paramilitary National Gendarmerie and the Republican Guard, whose chiefs report to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who is subordinate to the Minister of Defense. In addition, regime security forces include the National Police Force Joint National. The Gendarmerie, responsible for internal security, has a strength of several thousand. The Army, with about 15,000 personnel, is by far the largest branch of the armed forces. It is mainly responsible for protecting the state borders, the security of administered territories, and defending Guinea's national interests. Air Force personnel total about 700. The force's equipment includes several Russian-supplied fighter planes and transports. The Navy has about 900 personnel and operates several small patrol craft and barges.
Geography.
Guinea shares a border with Guinea-Bissau to the northwest, Senegal to the north, Mali to the northeast, Ivory Coast to the east, Sierra Leone to the southwest and Liberia to the south. The nation forms a crescent as it curves from its southeast region to the north and west, to its northwest border with Guinea-Bissau and southwestern coast on the Atlantic Ocean. The sources of the Niger River, Gambia River, and Senegal River are all found in the Guinea Highlands. Guinea is roughly the size of the United Kingdom. There are of coastline and a total land border of. It lies mostly between latitudes 7 degrees and 13 degrees north, and longitudes 7 degrees and 15 degrees west. A small area is west of 15 degrees. Guinea is divided into 4 main regions: Maritime Guinea, also known as Lower Guinea or the Basque Lowlands, populated mainly by the Susu ethnic group, the cooler, mountainous Fouta Jalan that run roughly north-south through the middle of the country, populated by Fullas, the Salient Guinea to the northeast, populated by Malink, and the forested jungle regions in the southeast, with several ethnic groups. Guinea's mountains are the source for the Niger, the Gambia, and Senegal rivers, as well as the numerous rivers flowing to the sea on the west side of the range in Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast. The highest point in Guinea is Mount Nimbat, although the Guinean and Ivorian sides of the Nimba Massif are a UNESCO strict nature reserve. The portion of the so-called Guinean backbone continues into Liberia, where it has been mined for decades. The damage is quite evident in the Nsrekor region at
Regions and prefectures.
The Republic of Guinea covers of West Africa, about 10 degrees north of the equator. Guinea is divided into 4 natural regions with distinct human, geographic, and climatic characteristics. Maritime Guinea La Guinea Maritime covers 18% of the country. Middle Guinea La Moan Guinea covers 20% of the country. Upper Guinea La Haute Guinea covers 38% of the country. Forested Guinea Guinea Forest Ear covers 23% of the country, and is both forested and mountainous. Guinea is divided into 8 administrative regions and subdivided into 33 prefectures. Conakry is Guinea's capital, largest city, and economic center. Nsrekor, located in the Guinea Forestier region in southern Guinea, is the second largest city. Other major cities in the country with a population above 100,000 include Kankan, Kindia, Labe, Kidu, Bok, Mom, and Kisadugu. The capital Conakry with a population of 1,667,864 ranks as a special zone.
Wildlife.
The wildlife of Guinea is very diverse due to the wide variety of different habitats. The southern part of the country lies within Guinean forests of West Africa biodiversity hotspot, while the northeast is characterized by dry savanna woodlands. Unfortunately, declining populations of large animals are restricted to uninhabited distant parts of parks and reserves.
Taxonomy.
Species found in Guinea include the following: amphibians, Hemigus guinensis, Phrynobatrachus guinensis; reptiles, Acanthodactylus guinensis, Moschus guinensis; arachnids, Malanita guinensis, Dictyna guinensis; insects, Zorotypus guinensis, Euchromia guinensis; birds, Melaniparus guinensis.
Economy. Natural resources.
Guinea has abundant natural resources including 25% or more of the world's known bauxite reserves. Guinea also has diamonds, gold, and other metals. The country has great potential for hydroelectric power. Bauxite and alumina are currently the only major exports. Other industries include processing plants for beer, juices, soft drinks and tobacco. Agriculture employs 80% of the nation's labor force. Under French rule, and at the beginning of independence, Guinea was a major exporter of bananas, pineapples, coffee, peanuts, and palm oil. Guinea has considerable potential for growth in the agricultural and fishing sectors. Soil, water, and climatic conditions provide opportunities for large-scale irrigated farming and agro-industry.
Mining.
Guinea possesses over 25 billion metric tons of bauxite, and perhaps up to 1/2 of the world's reserves. In addition, Guinea's mineral wealth includes more than 4 billion tons of high-grade iron ore, significant diamond and gold deposits, and undetermined quantities of uranium. Possibilities for investment and commercial activities exist in all these areas, but Guinea's poorly developed infrastructure and rampant corruption continue to present obstacles to large-scale investment projects. Joint venture bauxite mining and alumina operations in northwest Guinea historically provide about 80% of Guinea's foreign exchange. Bauxite is refined into alumina, which is later smelted into aluminium. The CBG, which exports about 14 million tons of high-grade bauxite annually, is the main player in the bauxite industry. CBG is a joint venture, 49% owned by the Guinean government and 51% by an international consortium known as Halco Mining Incorporated, itself a joint venture controlled by aluminium producer Alcoa, global miner Rio Tinto Group and Dadgo Investments. CBG has exclusive rights to bauxite reserves and resources in northwestern Guinea through 2038. In 2008, protesters upset about poor electrical services blocked the tracks CBG uses. Guinea often includes a proviso in its agreements with international oil companies requiring its partners to generate power for nearby communities. The Compagnie des Bauxites de Guinea CBK, a joint venture between the government of Guinea and Revolt, produces some 2.5 million tons annually, nearly all of which is exported to Russia and Eastern Europe. Dian, a Guinean, Ukrainian joint bauxite venture, has a projected production rate of per year, but is not expected to begin operation for several years. The Alumina Compagnie de Guinea ACG, which took over the former Friguia consortium, produced about 2.4 million tons in 2004 as raw material for its alumina refinery. The refinery exports about 750,000 tons of alumina. Both Global Alumina and Alcoa Alcan have signed conventions with the government of Guinea to build large alumina refineries with a combined capacity of about 4 million tons per year. Diamonds and gold also are mined and exported on a large scale. The bulk of diamonds are mined artisanally. The largest gold mining operation in Guinea is a joint venture between the government and Ashanti Goldfields of Ghana. Edo, a joint diamond mining venture between the Guinean government 50% and an Australian, British, and Swiss consortium, began production in 1984 and mined diamonds that were 90% gem quality. Production stopped from 1993 until 1996. When First City Mining of Canada purchased the international portion of the consortium. Société Minière de Dinguirac SMD also has a large gold mining facility in Lero, near the Malian border.
Oil.
Guinea signed a production sharing agreement with Hyperdynamics Corporation of Houston in 2006 to explore a large offshore tract, and was recently in partnership with Dana Petroleum plc Aberdeen, United Kingdom. The initial well, the Cebu-1, was scheduled to begin drilling in October 2011 at a site in approximately 700 meters of water. The Cebu-1 targeted a four-way anticline prospect with Upper Cretaceous sands and was anticipated to be drilled to a total depth of 3,600 meters. Following the completion of exploratory drilling in 2012, the Cebu-1 well was not deemed commercially viable. In November 2012, Hyperdynamics subsidiary SCS reached an agreement for a sale of 40% of the concession to Tullow Oil, bringing ownership shares in the Guinea offshore tract to 37% Hyperdynamics, 40% Tullow Oil, and 23% Dana Petroleum. Hyperdynamics will have until September 2016 under the current agreement to begin drilling its next selected site, the Fatal Cenomanian turbidite fan prospect.
Agriculture.
The majority of Guineans work in the agriculture sector, which employs approximately 75% of the country. The rice is cultivated in the flooded zones between streams and rivers. However, the local production of rice is not sufficient to feed the country, so rice is imported from Asia. The agriculture sector of Guinea cultivates coffee beans, pineapples, peaches, nectarines, mangoes, oranges, bananas, potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, pepper, and many other types of produce. Guinea is one of the emerging regional producers of apples and pears. There are many plantations of grapes, pomegranates, and recent years have seen the development of strawberry plantations based on the vertical hydroponic system.
Tourism.
Due to its diverse geography, Guinea presents some interesting tourist sites. Among the top attractions are the waterfalls found mostly in the Basse Guinea, Lower Guinea and Moan Guinea Middle Guinea regions. The Sumba Cascade at the foot of Mount Kekulima in Kindia, Voile de la Marie Brides Vale in Dubreka, the Kinkan Cascades that are about high on the Kokula River in the prefecture of Pita, the Kambadago Falls that can reach during the rainy season on the same river, the Dighton and Miti waterfalls in Dalaba, and the Fitor waterfalls and the Stone Bridge in the region of Labar are among the most well-known water-related tourist sites.
Problems and reforms.
In 2002, the IMF suspended Guinea's Poverty Reduction and Growth Facility (PRGF) because the government failed to meet key performance criteria. In reviews of the PRGF, the World Bank noted that Guinea had met its spending goals in targeted social priority sectors. However, spending in other areas, primarily defense, contributed to a significant fiscal deficit. The loss of IMF funds forced the government to finance its debts through central bank advances. The pursuit of unsound economic policies has resulted in imbalances that are proving hard to correct. Under then Prime Minister Diallo, the government began a rigorous reform agenda in December 2004 designed to return Guinea to a PRGF with the IMF. Exchange rates have been allowed to float, price controls on gasoline have been loosened, and government spending has been reduced while tax collection has been improved. These reforms have not reduced inflation, which hit 27% in 2004 and 30% in 2005. Currency depreciation is also a concern. The Guinea franc was trading at 2,550 to the dollar in January 2005. It hit 5,554 to the dollar by October 2006. In August 2016 that number had reached 9,089. Despite the opening in 2005 of a new road connecting Guinea and Mali, most major roadways remain in poor repair, slowing the delivery of goods to local markets. Electricity and water shortages are frequent and sustained, and many businesses are forced to use expensive power generators and fuel to stay open. Even though there are many problems plaguing Guinea's economy, not all foreign investors are reluctant to come to Guinea. Global Alumina's proposed alumina refinery has a price tag above $2 billion. Alcoa and Alcan are proposing a slightly smaller refinery worth about $1.5 billion. Taken together, they represent the largest private investment in sub-Saharan Africa since the Chad-Cameroon oil pipeline. Also, Hyperdynamics Corporation, an American oil company, signed an agreement in 2006 to develop Guinea's offshore Senegal basin oil deposits in a concession of, it is pursuing seismic exploration. On the 13th of October 2009, Guinean Mines Minister Mahmoud Thiam announced that the China International Fund would invest more than $7 billion £5 billion in infrastructure. In return, he said the firm would be a strategic partner in all mining projects in the mineral-rich nation. He said the firm would help build ports, railway lines, power plants, low-cost housing and even a new administrative center in the capital, Conakry. In September 2011, Mohamed Lamine Fofana, the mines minister following the 2010 election, said that the government had overturned the agreement by the ex-military junta. Youth unemployment remains a large problem. Guinea needs an adequate policy to address the concerns of urban youth. One problem is the disparity between their life and what they see on television. For youth who cannot find jobs, seeing the economic power and consumerism of richer countries only serves to frustrate them further.
Mining controversies.
Guinea has large reserves of the steel-making raw material, iron ore. Rio Tinto Group was the majority owner of the $6 billion Simandou iron ore project, which it had called the world's best unexploited resource. This project is said to be of the same magnitude as the Pilbara in Western Australia. In 2017, Oxif Capital Management Group pled guilty to a multi-year bribery scheme, after an investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) led to a trial in the United States and a fine of $412 million. Following this, the SEC also filed a lawsuit in the US against head of OXIF European operations, Michael Cohen, for his role in a bribery scheme in the region. In 2009, the government of Guinea gave the northern half of Simandou to BSGR for an $165 million investment in the project and a pledge to spend $1 billion on railways, saying that Rio Tinto wasn't moving into production fast enough. The U.S. Justice Department investigated allegations that BSGR had bribed President Conte's wife to get him the concession, and so did the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the next elected president of Guinea, Alpha Conde, and an assortment of other national and international entities. In April 2014, the Guinean government cancelled the company's mining rights in Simandou. BSGR has denied any wrongdoing, and in May 2014 sought arbitration over the government of Guinea's decision to expropriate its mining rights. In February 2019, BSGR and Guinean President Alpha Conde agreed to drop all allegations of wrongdoing as well as the pending arbitration case. Under the agreement, BSGR would relinquish rights to Simandou while being allowed to maintain an interest in the small Azogota deposit that would be developed by Nin Metals head Mick Davis. In 2010, Rio Tinto signed a binding agreement with Aluminium Corporation of China Limited to establish a joint venture for the Simandou iron ore project. In November 2016, Rio Tinto admitted paying $10.5 million to a close advisor of President Alpha Conde to obtain rights on Simandou. Conde said he knew nothing about the bribe and denied any wrongdoing. However, according to recordings obtained by France 24, Guinean authorities were aware of the Simandou briberies. In July 2017, the UK-based anti-fraud regulator, the Serious Fraud Office SFO, and the Australian Federal Police launched an investigation into Rio Tinto's business practices in Guinea. Further, in November 2016, the former mining minister of Guinea, Mahmoud Thiam, accused head of Rio Tinto's Guinea Operation Department of offering him a bribe in 2010 to regain Rio Tinto's control over half of the undeveloped Simandou project. In September 2011, Guinea adopted a new mining code. The law set up a commission to review government deals struck during the chaotic days between the end of dictatorship in 2008 and Conde coming to power. In September 2015, the French Financial Public Prosecutor's Office launched an investigation into President Alpha Conde's